So in this family meeting, we're going to be talking about problem prevention. So imagine how frustrating it would be to play a game of softball if you didn't know the rules. Rules are important for any activity, including our day-to-day living in families. So to prevent any problems and get along well in a family, everybody really needs to be clear about the rules and the expectations. And children often misbehave simply because they don't know what parents expect from them. They don't know where the limits are and how much freedom they're allowed. Of course, there's a lot of shrewd children that are going to play dumb about the rules, figuring, hey, it's easier to gain forgiveness than it is permission. But in either case, many problems can be prevented if you just take some time to discuss the guidelines and the expectations before the situation occurs. And the active parenting approach to problem prevention is not about laying down the law and dictating what the rules are. A much more effective approach is to discuss the potential problems with your child and decide together what solution or guidelines the situation requires. And of course, as the parent, you're going to have certain limits that are non-negotiable. But a willingness to be flexible within those limits can go a long way to winning cooperation and avoiding problems. So for example, you have some grocery shopping to do, and you need to take your 5-year-old daughter with you. Have a short talk with your child before you leave home, and that can improve your chances of your outing being a problem-free time. And that's going to save you a lot of time. It's going to save you a lot of stress. And so we're going to go over some guidelines to help make your problem prevention talk a little bit more effective. So we have 5 guidelines for the problem prevention talks. And the first is to identify potential problems and risks. If you have been in similar situations before, then you probably know where the trouble spots are going to be. Otherwise, just use your experience of similar situations and your knowledge of your child to kind of anticipate the problems. So like, for example, your child often whines for you to buy them things whenever they go shopping with you. And maybe they also have a tendency to wander off, and that's going to force you to chase them. The second one is to share your thoughts and feelings. Ask the child what they think about the situation and what problems they think might come up. You might be surprised that they also have concerns. Then make your own thoughts and feelings clear in a friendly manner. So, for example, your child may feel that grocery shopping is boring and she'd rather be playing outside. You might say that, hey, you know what, I understand shopping's boring, but, I need to buy food for the family to eat. Then we can generate some guidelines for behavior. So using the information that you've gathered in step 2, talk with your child about what you expect of the child. And when we discuss the guidelines, keep in mind that it's going to be easier for your child to comply with the rules if they feel like they're gaining something by doing it. And we're not suggesting the use of rewards or bribes for cooperative behavior, but including incentives can be effective. So we want to avoid something like, if you're good, I'll buy you a toy. That's a bribe or it's a reward, and it's going to lead to having to buy the child something every time you go to the store, and that's going to teach them to manipulate other people. So what would be better to say is, if we finish our shopping by 4:30, we'll have time to stop by the park on the way home. What's best to say here is, hey, how would you like to help me do the shopping by handing me the groceries off the shelf? Maybe you can help me pick some things that you'd like to have for dinner this week. Or, great, I also need for you to stay beside me all the time so that we'll be safe and we won't interfere with the other shoppers. Then you can decide on logical consequences for violating the guidelines. That's if necessary. Your child is going to be more likely to follow the guidelines if they know that there are going to be logical consequences if they violate it. You don't need to use this step with kids who are basically cooperative or who have not had problems in similar situations. In fact, such a warning may seem like an insult to a child who only needs to be included in the discussion and have their needs considered in order to cooperate. For more challenging kids, though, consequences are very helpful when done right. So, for example, when we get to the store, you can either walk with me or you will ride in the cart. And then we want to follow up later. this is in situations in which you're not around to ensure that the guidelines were followed. You need to check up to see how your child behaved. And if they have followed the guidelines, then you can encourage them by acknowledging the good effort. And if they haven't, then you need to enforce the logical consequence.